Alright, this is video 1 for an intervention example. I'm going to be doing a general outline of a lyric analysis today. I use the song This Is Me from The Greatest Showman pretty often. Generally, I don't give a lot of information at the beginning, but I say, welcome to music therapy, I'm Emily. We have music therapy on this unit every day, Wednesday through Saturday. Today, we're going to be doing a lyric analysis, which is just a fancy way of saying we're going to sing a song and talk about the lyrics. And I pass out a lyric sheet that looks like this, except this one has all my notes on it. But everyone gets lyrics, and then each line is numbered so that it's easy to reference the lyrics during the session. I always invite them to sing along if they feel comfortable, and while we're singing, just go ahead and make a mental note of any lines that stand out to you, and by stand out, that could be something you agree with, something you don't agree with, or something that you just find interesting or you want to talk more about. A stranger to the dark, hide away, they say, we don't want your broken parts. I've learned to be ashamed of all my scars. Run away, they say, no one will love you as you are, but I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us, for we are glorious. When the sharpest words want to cut me down, gonna send a flood, gonna drown them out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come, marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen, I make no apologies. This is me. Oh, gonna send a flood, gonna drown them out. This is brave, this is bruised, this is who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come, and I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen, I So is there anyone who wants to start us off with something that stood out? And I open up the floor for discussion. First, I let them tell me what stood out. I have talking points that I hope to get to, or if I need to get to, but I like to hear what's on their mind first. And also, there are a couple different topics that I could get into, but I feel like allowing them to speak first lets me know what they want to be talking about. So we could be talking about identity. We could be talking about coping with hard things. We could be talking about support systems. We could be talking about goal setting. There's so many things that we could get to. I don't have time to get to all of them. So I feel like by opening it up for them to identify lyrics that stand out, it guides which session plan I'm going to end up going with. So everyone always points out line 1, I'm not a stranger to the dark. Everybody goes through hard things. We talk about the imagery of light and darkness, and we talk about generally line 4, I've learned to be ashamed of all my scars. I point out the word learned. I've learned to be ashamed of my scars. So that means that someone else told me I'm supposed to be ashamed of my scars. It's not something that I was ashamed of immediately. I'm ashamed of them because someone told me I should be. And maybe we wouldn't be ashamed of those things if we had more people telling us that we shouldn't be ashamed of them. The other thing I point out is the word scars. What is a scar? I let them answer. And then I say, is a scar, if someone has a scar and I see it on their arm, and am I going to say, oh my goodness, we need to get a Band-Aid for that immediately? And they say, no. And I say, why not? And they say, because it's already healed. And I say, exactly. So is a scar some open wound that we're trying to actively take care of? No, a scar is something that has healed over. It shows that we've been through something hard and it didn't destroy us. It shows that we healed from it, we overcame it, and we're moving forward. So there's an idea of being ashamed of open wounds. And I think that's a pretty inherent thing. That's something that comes naturally. If you're openly bleeding, you don't want to share that with a lot of people. You want to go take care of that wound. But when it becomes a scar, that's something to be proud of. And maybe not how you got the scar, but the fact that you overcame it and you healed from it, and now you're taking on life with new knowledge. We've been taught to be ashamed of the scars, where scars are something that we should be proud of. Honestly, they could pick any line in the song, really, to talk about. Some of my talking points, the scars line is something I like to talk about. Line 11 says, I'm going to send a flood, gonna drown them out. That is the line, if someone points that out, I kind of have a feeling we're going to talk about coping. So let's just say, for the sake of this video, that the group takes it in a more coping skills direction. So we talk about, we're going to send a flood and drown them out. Okay. So this song is listing all the bad things. And then in the chorus, we're talking about how to overcome the bad things. So looking at the lyrics, what does this person do to cope with the negative things that are happening? And everybody says, line 11, send a flood to drown it out. And I say, okay, is it that easy in real life to just say, well, I guess I'm not going to pay attention to the bad things and now everything's great? Everybody says, no. I say, exactly, because this song is a 4-minute song. It has enough time to tell you what the problem is and to tell you what the happy ending is. But if we were going to go into how this person dealt with everything, it would be a 20-minute long song and no one wants to hear that. Generally, people laugh. And so I say, this song is great, it's motivational, but it doesn't really tell us how this person coped with this to reach that happy ending. So then we talk about coping skills. What does it mean to cope with something? I ask the group, Generally, someone says something along the lines of, it means to deal with it. I say, exactly right. The important thing about coping is to not mistake it as leisure. Now, coping skills and leisure skills are both very, very important. We need both things, but it's very dangerous when you confuse the two. Here's why. Coping skills, like Carl just said, are dealing with the problem. So we're facing it, we're figuring out how to move past it, and we're learning from it. Leisure skills are kind of the opposite of that. Leisure skills are saying, hey, I don't have the mental capacity to be able to deal with this right now, so I'm going to distract myself from it, get myself in a good place, and then when I'm ready, I'll come back to it. A lot of people think that leisure skills are coping skills, when in fact, distracting yourself from the problem is not coping with it. Because what happens when you're done using that leisure skill? And everybody says, the problem's still there. Exactly right. So, while leisure skills are really important, because sometimes we're not ready to face that problem head on just yet, and we need to take a minute, we need to make sure we come back to it to actually cope with it. Because if you don't take the time to cope with the problem, it's always going to be there until we figure out how to cope with it. So then we talk about the different ways of coping. Guess what? Humans are all so different, and it's kind of a great thing, but also kind of a frustrating thing, because as a therapist, I can't tell you one coping skill that's going to solve all your problems. Unfortunately, you're the only one who's ever going to know you well enough to know what coping skills work. So all I can do is offer different options, and then whichever one you feel like you connect to the most is the one that you should grab onto and keep moving forward. Of course, I'm going to talk about music because I'm the music therapist, but we have people like Ashley with art therapy, and Mr. Ron with nursing group, and Mr. Kevin with social work, who come in and give you the opportunity to try lots and lots of different coping skills. And we do that, I'm going to tell you a secret, not because we expect you to love every single thing. It's actually because we know you're not going to love every single thing. We do that because we want you to find one or two things that stand out to you as things that you can use. And then if you didn't like it, that's fine. You never have to do it again. But the point is that you tried it. So we talk about the types of coping skills. And then I wrap it up by saying, okay, once you have determined what your coping skill is, how often or when should we be using our coping skills? And I let them raise their hands and they say, when we're depressed, when we're angry, when we're having an anxiety attack, when we're bored, when we're mad at our mom. Yes, absolutely. Yes, yes, yes. You're all correct, but it's a little bit of a trick question because you should actually be using your coping skills every day, even if you feel like you don't need it. I know that seems like a lot, but I'm going to give you a couple different examples. The first one, I always use the oil change example. So can someone tell me why you go get your oil changed? Because if you don't, your engine will explode. Okay. Is there something wrong with your car when you take it to get an oil change? No. Okay, so what if I said, there's nothing wrong with my car, I just don't think I'll take it to get an oil change? The engine will blow up and it'll be a disaster. Exactly. We are kind of like cars. Our coping skills are like an oil change. If we don't use our coping skills until we need them, we're going to be dealing with a huge disaster and trying to clean up a big mess. Now, if we use our coping skills a little bit along the way, when there's not a problem yet, then that helps us work through the small things so they don't build up so quickly into something big that we then have to try to deal with later. So we're using our coping skills as an oil change and not as buying a whole new car. The second example I use is relating coping skills to muscles. So if you never use any of your muscles, you never go lift any weights, and someday someone comes along and asks you to push a huge boulder across the room, are you going to be able to do that? No, you'll probably hurt yourself. No way, I'm not even going to try. Right, not going to happen. But if I go to the gym and lift weights just in preparation, to get my muscles to be stronger, am I going to have a better chance of pushing that boulder? Yeah, probably. Right. So if we never use our coping skills, weak baby muscles, and then someday we have an anxiety attack and we try to use those weak baby muscles to deal with this big anxiety attack, is it going to work? No. Exactly, because when you're in the middle of a crisis, you don't want to do the new thing that you've never tried before. You want to do the thing that's familiar, that feels easy, that you know works. So we have to build up those muscles before we need them so that when we need them, they're already strong and we know we can rely on them. So to end the session, I recap the most important things. Number one, know the difference between coping skills and leisure skills. We need both of them, but know when you need to distract yourself and come back to it and when you need to face it head on and deal with it. Number two, there are tons of ways to cope. You just need to find the one that's right for you and make sure it's a healthy coping skill. If it hurts you or someone else, it's not a healthy coping skill. And lastly, you should be using your coping skills every day so that we're taking care of the little things along the way and so that those muscles get to be strong enough so that when we really do need them, we know we can depend on them. Does anyone have questions, comments, or things that we want to talk about before I let you go today? Usually no. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you're around tomorrow, I'll see you tomorrow morning for group and we'll do something different. Sometimes at the end, if there's extra time, they'll ask me to repeat the chorus or we'll think of a different song that kind of relates to what we're talking about. But I would say generally the 45 minutes is taken up after we've kind of talked through things. So that's a very general outline of my lyric analysis for the song This Is Me, if it were taken in the direction of coping skills. So that's kind of my spiel for coping. So I hope you enjoyed video 1. Video 2 will be later.